think anyone who comes to you on a podcast and says, this is how the Indian creator economy is going to function is lying.
They have no idea.
They have no idea. Because look at us. About 10 years ago, you didn't, you didn't, you didn't know of this at all. 5 years ago, you were like, chalo kuch naya aa raha hai,
हाँ,
right?
try
Suddenly,
करते हैं.
try karte hain. Today, it's like everywhere. TV is still the prima facie medium to get scale. It's still right up there. But I think what's disrupted is OTT. What's disrupted is today, for example, an IPL being available on your phone in the last few years. I think those are the disruptive things that have happened in tech. Fundamentally, advertising is a finite market. Commerce is an infinite market. And I think when those two things meet, when content platforms start enabling commerce, I think you'll have a multiplier there for sure. Barack Obama has spoken about Pratik Kuhad. I'm guessing he's cut eyes somewhere there. Comedy is consistently growing even in comedy. You have people like Amit Tandon who writes family-based comedy shows, and that does really, really well. I think the noise is greater than the substance. I think whenever something new happens, the media always, I think the media reportage of it is so robust that you actually, the well is not as deep as you think. I think the well has got depth. We've just started drilling it.
Hello. Welcome to I Did It My Way, our podcast. And our guest today is Vijay Subramaniam, who is the head of Collective Artists Network. Of course, we have been talking a lot about the creator economy and how it's growing. It's booming in India, actually. So we're here to talk about all the numbers and the business of this business. Vijay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here, Sonia. Pleasure to be here.
I know it's been a while since we've been planning this, and finally it's happened.
Absolutely. A long time coming, and I'm excited for this conversation.
I know, so am I, because there's so much happening currently, not just with celebrity and artist management, but also with the creator economy, right? Which you guys are focusing on in a big way at Big Bang. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think ever since the internet kind of democratized a few years ago, I think for us it was very, very clear that you're going to have pop culture icons come from three funnels. You're going to have cricket, which has always been there, and sports. You're going to have Bollywood and films and the movie industry by and large. But I think with the advent of the pervasive nature of the internet, we just knew that the creator economy will be the next big rise, right? Because today, what do you need? You need a smartphone and an internet connection to become a content creator, right? So I think with the cost of entry reducing so significantly, for us it was very important that because we held and we built this kind of a foundation of building a large pop culture enterprise, how do we take this across to parts of the country and actually power people to have a career in content creation? That was really the genesis. So if you actually ask me, the why or the purpose for it is to actually create more employment and jobs in the field of entertainment by empowering creators to come out and make money or make a name using making content.
And this industry has really grown in the last couple of years, right? So let's set the context, Vijay. How big is the creator economy in India right now? And what do you see as the growth over the next couple of years?
Beautiful question. One that I've been asked many, many times, but I think it's a little
Have you figured it out?
No, because I think the sample set of data isn't accurate. I think if you actually look at it, there are two parts to this, right? Most people confuse the creator economy to be the size of influencer marketing. That's not the case. That's a smaller market. That's about 1.5, 2,000 crores.
So what is the difference between a creator and an influencer?
Another question that's been asked a lot. I think you're an influencer. So Sonia Shenoy for me is an influencer because you have an influence on the audience that follows you on social media, and your content actually has the potential to kind of influence their purchase decisions, their surfing decisions, their content consumption decisions. I think creators, fundamentally anyone, right? Today, I can be a creator, but it's not necessary that people are following or making purchase decisions that are
Based on
enabled
you.
by me. So I think the fundamental difference, the way I put it across as an influencer, somebody who has influence to actually create consumption-led decisions for the audience. And creators are just more, engaging, and I think that's the up-funneling. So I think it's creators, influencers, celebrities in that order of up-funneling. Really.
So you said influencer marketing is still a smaller
It's
portion.
a smaller pie. I mean, I would say it's about 1,500 crores this year. it's still growing, because I think what happened was previously influencer marketing used to be pretty much a D2C startup play. I think now you have more and more mainstream corporates that have actually understood that this is a very efficient way of deploying their media money. The other part, which is the conundrum to me, which I don't think is very clear to any of us, is what does the commerce business have, right? Which is your actual retail business, right? Because if you actually see the creator economy today, right from selling a ticket, if you're a music artist, or from selling a course, if you're a podcaster, or if you're somebody who's selling master classes, going all the way to selling t-shirts and perfumes and lipsticks, right? They all pretty much fall under the gamut of commerce. So literally trying to evaluate what that size is, and that's where for me it's a multi-billion dollar market. I don't think it's singular. I think China has done it really well, where it's, this morning I was reading the news. Apparently their live commerce business itself is going towards 300 billion by the end of 2025.
So why is it not working here? Correct me if I'm wrong. In terms of commerce, right? Creator commerce, we haven't really seen any big brands break through in a big way. And live commerce has not picked up in India. China is way ahead of us. Why is that?
I'm not certain if it's just a question of creator brands. I think it's only in the last 10 years that you've actually seen the advent of Indian brands, right? Outside of your industry, so outside of the Tata groups and the Reliance, etc. I keep asking this pop quiz: when was the last time you wore an Indian pair of jeans, right? As a socially aspiring consumer, right? I think that has changed. I think, if you see, say, what Aman has done with Boat, for example, in that category, or if you see, what's happened with
Shoes
with shoes, which is
with Comet, for
sorry, yeah,
example.
exactly, a
Yeah.
couple of these brands that are coming up, or if you see what's happening across the board, I mean, you see some amount of that loyalty building in more BPC brands as well. I think fundamentally, the advent of Indian brands taking power is happening now, and I think that will be followed by the creators. But first, I think people needed to consume indigenous brands first, right? E-commerce is new. Retail is still by and large unorganized, right? In that sense, if you see our e-commerce business, it's been a little more than a decade in terms of really shaping up consumption. So I feel it's not a question of if, it is a question of when. And to your first question on why the aggressive move towards expanding, here's what I want to do at Collective, right? Is actually empower. So tomorrow I want to, for example, I want a Dabeli vendor to have a business by creating content, right? That's how I'm looking at it, and I think it'll get there. I think it's happened in other parts of the world. It'll definitely happen in India.
I think everyone needs to be a creator if they want to build their personal brand, right? I mean, look at Bill Gates. He's a billionaire, but he's still a creator. He's making these viral reels all over the place. But okay, so tell me about commerce, right? You said that it could be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for India. Get into the details of that. For someone who is, so my objective with this podcast is for someone who's looking to get into the creator landscape and wants to build a career there, what all should he or she be looking at?
uh, I feel first define your audience, and strongly so. I think the problem that happens with commerce is if you are everything to everyone, that becomes a little bit of a tough barrier to enter, because the incumbents are just so strong. I think in commerce, what are the fundamental tenets, right? Building the brand. I think the supply chain, logistics, formulation, or the product can always be solved for. But I think brand and distribution form the key tenets of scaling a brand, right? So how do you, as a young creator, how do you create that distribution? Firstly, you start off with your own networks, right? So I think my advice to creators has always been, or my advice to the team that represents a bunch of creators has always been, first establish the why very, very strongly. I think commerce is the how, right? I think what is your creator good at? Why are you doing this, right? And I think establish your audience. I mean, if you see, I'm wearing a Metallica hoodie, but I was a Metallica fan from the late, from 2008-9, and I consume Metallica because I'm a part of their tribe, right? 20 30 years hence, from in their business, they started in 1983. That's 4 generations, and I'm still a hardcore
Loyalist.
loyalist, right? So they built me as an audience, right? And not just am I buying their song, I'm also buying their product, right? So I think it's not very dissimilar, because I think first principles remain the same. So build your audience, attract people for a particular reason. and then go wider with it. But first, define your world before you sort of populate it.
So, what are the platforms that are growing? I mean, rate them in terms of which are the fastest growing platforms right now. I'm asking you because social media has now become very cluttered, right? The amount of time I had to consume social media is the same, but the amount of creators and the amount of platforms has risen substantially over the last couple of years. So, don't you think that this clutter could impact sort of brand deals and all of that?
I mean, technically, Sonia, it's still a duopoly, right? It's still very much between Google and Meta. Uh, so I think what you're referring to as social media noise is more number of users coming onto these platforms vis-a-vis actually the diversification of that many platforms at scale. I don't necessarily believe that that many platforms have scaled in social media. I think if you look at you had Internet 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0. I think I would still think it's a duopoly between two platforms still. Of course, the one what's disrupted is the OTT business, right? That's where you have 8, 10 platforms that are coming for content distribution, but that's more long format content. But from a pure short format social perspective, it's still a duopoly, right? For the largest share. I mean, you as a brand are still spending maximum advertising dollars between these two platforms, right? They have probably 85% share, if not more. So I think what's happening is you've had an upsurge in number of users that have come onto this platform, and I think ever since internet has become so penetrative
And accessible.
and accessible, kudos to the Reliance revolution and the Geo revolution on that. But ever since that has happened so strongly, I think fundamentally today discovery has been solved for in a lot easier way, right? That's what. So today you can do this podcast. You can have, you're a personality. You're not just, somebody in yesteryears. It used to be TV news anchor and then what, right? You'd always struggle for the next step in your life. But today, through platforms, through channels and access like this, you're in a position to build a lot more than that. So I think that's really the interesting part. The access to the availability of the advertising market and the consumer to accept someone else outside of the movie business or the cricket or the sport business as a person of influence. That's really what it is.
That's interesting. So, if I am a content creator and I want to grow my distribution, right? What are the different avenues? So, there are brand deals. What else? What are the different revenue streams that a content creator can look at?
I think right now it's still a lot of it is hinged on brand deals. I think commerce is still very gray. Yeah, people talk about launching their own brands, white labeling their own products. But do I have really a scalable example of a billion-dollar company? The answer is no. I think you're still getting used to that. So if you ask me right now, it's still hinged a lot on platform monetization, which is predominantly advertising, right? I think where this will go in the next few years, though, is I think affiliate commerce, social commerce. If somebody goes and cracks the live business and the live commerce business, your white labeled digital products, not just physical products, right? Could be things like courses, could be things like online courses. Like we've acquired this company called Under 25, which is India's largest student community, right? And we have, you know, thousands of students in that platform who are making 50 rupees, 80 rupees, just to launch the coffee shop next to their college, right? Just to comment on posts. So you really don't know. I'm just every day is a new realization, right? And that's what's keeping
Trends
me
are
excited.
changing by the hour.
Yeah, so I think anyone who comes to you on a podcast and says this is how the Indian creator economy is going to function is lying, because
They have no idea.
they have no idea. Because look at us. About 10 years ago, you didn't you didn't you didn't know of this at all. 5 years ago, you were like, "Chalo, kuch naya aa raha hai,"
हाँ,
right?
try
Suddenly,
करते हैं.
try karte hain. Today, it's like everywhere, right? And that's the reality. 5 years from now, it
Today,
will be
people's side hustle has sort of become the main gig for them.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and we are all in for that. Yeah. So if you're out there watching this show and you want to make content, we're here to power you.
But Vijay, I'm sure your opinion will be biased on this because you're on the other side. But do you think traditional media is dead? TV, print? Because I'm asking from an advertiser point of view. If an advertiser has 100 rupees to spend, anything, a jewelry brand, a shoe brand, whatever, right? FMCG. Has the amount of money that they spend on traditional media like TV and print gone down substantially compared to what it was 5 years ago?
Interesting question. And I don't think traditional media is dead. I think traditional advertising is dying. I think they're two fundamental difference. Look, how do you define 200 million households that TV reaches, right, or more? I feel that's still difficult. I feel TV is still the prima facie medium to get scale. uh, it's still right up there. But I think what's disrupted is OTT. What's disrupted is today, for example, an IPL being available on your phone in the last few years. I think those are the disruptive things that have happened in tech. What I've definitely seen is advertisers are looking in more engaged advertising vis-a-vis one-way communication, which is where I feel, has there been a share of pie that's been taken away? I think the answer to that could be yes. I don't. I'm not. I've not read the latest report that gives me concurrent validation to that. But I feel what's really increased is the size of the advertising pie. I think the pizza has gotten bigger, right? So yes, a few pieces of television and traditional media might have been taken away, but I think the size has just got bigger. I think in 15, 16, we were sitting at what, 3, 4,000 crores of digital advertising. Today you're at a lakh plus. So let's look at the compounded growth of digital advertising as a medium.
So
So
you're saying digital advertising has
it's
gone
just
up
blown up.
substantially, and what about traditional media?
Traditional media is, I don't think it's stagnated, because if, I mean, again, the sign to that is, do I see television rights of sports properties coming down? Not really. You see media rights still being sold for a significant amount. You still have monetization on satellite with films, which are very, very critical as a part of their monetization strategy. So I don't think it's come down. I think digital is on the growth path, and I think that will also normalize. And I think both will live in harmony. I don't think it's cannibalistic, if that's my pointed response to your question.
No, yeah. Also, you're saying it's not cannibalistic. Both are growing, but the pace at which traditional
Digital
media
is
is
growing much
growing,
faster.
digital is growing.
Much faster, simply because of the nature of engaging content. Yeah, I mean, that's the truth of it.
So, where do you see digital advertising, say 5 years from now? Could be the scope? I know things are changing every year, maybe every month, but what is the future of?
I think content and commerce merging. I think a lot of platforms enabling commerce. I think that's really the pivotal point. See, because
What do you
again,
mean by that? Content and
yeah,
commerce
if you
merging?
can buy things as you're watching it, something as small as that, what happens in China very well.
But that hasn't picked up, right? In India, in China, it's been 3, 4 years now that
Yeah,
live commerce is big.
yeah. Somebody, I don't know who said this to me. I think it was a VC, a very senior VC, who said it, that don't try and compare India and China. They are different in many ways. Heterogeneity being the largest differentiating factor of the populace. But I feel I'm not, I don't have a negative point of view on that. I think it will happen. It just didn't happen in the first round. I think it will happen. I think commerce will enable. I think there will be a point in time where I am literally going to watch a podcast and buy that shirt, right? I am literally going to, you're going to give me a teaser for the podcast for 30 seconds, and I'm going to want to see the whole of it by paying money. I think I'm going to want to buy a ring, or somebody's going to probably buy my Metallica jersey by actually watching the show. And I think that's where the real multiplier will happen, because fundamentally advertising is a finite market, commerce is an infinite market. And I think when those two things meet, when platforms start enabling commerce at scale, not e-commerce, content platforms, that's the difference, right? When content platforms start enabling commerce, I think you'll have a multiplier there for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the content platforms, right? There's YouTube at the top, of course, and there's Instagram, Facebook is very big as well. Um, for someone like you who's in this business, where are you seeing maximum amount of growth now?
Instagram, YouTube, it's still very, very clearly between those two platforms. I would say Meta platforms and Google platforms. We're still seeing a lot of growth. But what's happening though is, it's very interesting. I take this example quite a lot. You have a restaurant singer in 2014 who played at a bar or a restaurant, started making content on YouTube, popped it, uh, signed with a management company, which is us, uh, in 2016-17, scaled YouTube, wrote a piece of content which his agent really liked, and then we took it to this platform. We took it to Disney, and we came out with a show called Taza Khabar,
Wow.
and that performer is Bhuvan Bam, right? So that's what I mean by the journey, right? He started as a singer, just put out a piece of content that went viral on Facebook, started building his YouTube network. We met him, the team met him. He came on board, and today he has his own original on Disney, right? And I think this will happen many, many times over. So today I feel that's the opportunity that you have, right? On the content platforms, you have platforms that are promoting creator first content. It happened with Amazon back in the day when they did their whole AIB, when they did the entire comic specials, and that became a thing, right? And I think that will continue to happen a lot more, because I think economics are better for the platforms, and I feel new talent is being unearthed.
Any other examples of creator driven
Lots, yeah.
content that has blown up recently?
I mean, lots, right? I mean, I would think music. People tend to take music out, but look at the rise of independent music, and look at what Spotify has done to artists like Anuv Jain, Pratik Kuhar, Jaslyn Royal, right? These are no longer necessarily movie artists, right? So we again, that's the myth of creator economy, is you usually misinterpret it to be social, right? But if you go to, if Barack Obama has spoken about Pratik Kuhad, I'm guessing he's cut ice somewhere, right? So I think music. I think these are the few names that I took in music. I think comedy is consistently growing, even in comedy. You have people like Amit Tandon who writes family based comedy shows, and that does really, really well, right? It's not necessarily the youth gali galoch kind of comic. It's clean comedy. Even that's working, right? You have uh, you have people such as yourselves who now, who are becoming creators in your own right, and doing so well for yourselves by building your own IP, by building your own world around you. We have, people in the real estate business who are making money, by creating content. So I think it's literally across the board. I don't think it's financial creators. A bunch of them, right? Who are now having VC funded startups, right? And they're building businesses. So I think there
So
was
my
a
only issue with this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that do you think this creator-led economy is something that is growing too fast and sort of peaking too fast as well? I mean, is the
It's not peaking at
attrition?
all. I think the noise is greater than the substance. I think whenever something new happens, the media always. I think the media reportage of it is so robust that you actually, the well is not as deep as you think. I think the well has got depth. We've just started drilling it. So I don't think it's that big. If you look at the numbers, what is 2,000 crores of advertising for digital, for creators? It's not big, right? It's not a
This is
billion.
2,000 crores per year
Yeah.
of advertising only on
No.
influencer marketing
2,000 crores being paid to influencers to create content by advertisers.
per year.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the budget that is spent to amplify that. So if you're just hypothetically, because you're in the business, hypothetically, Sonia Shenoy getting paid $100 to promote a brand, that's a 2,000 crore market,
Okay.
right? Which is not big. Which is
It's not big. It's not big.
It's not big.
And what about the other stuff around it? Amplification, performance
That's where
marketing,
your
all of
1
that.
lakh. That's where your remainder of your lakh plus digital advertising dollars come in, right? To promote your content, to push it. I think this 2,000 will become 6,000 in the next 3 to 4 years. That's the growth that we are punting on. But I think what will really multiply on top
This is
of that,
not commerce.
this is not commerce
X
at
of
all. This is
commerce.
purely advertising. I think what will multiply is commerce on top of the 6,000. I think what will multiply is businesses.
So
That
when you
will
say
scale.
commerce, just to explain to our viewers, it is brands that are created by,
It's
say,
physical and digital
influencers.
products that you may buy. Simple.
Okay.
It could be a subscription.
Merchandise.
It could be a subscription. It could be merchandise. It could be anything. If you're paying for something, it's commerce. Tomorrow you can start a restaurant. That's commerce. Right? Tomorrow you can start a cloud kitchen. That's commerce. Tomorrow you can start a credit card company. That's commerce. So anything where you're enabling a transaction,
And that you're saying can be a multi-billion dollar
that I
business
think
in
already
India.
is. We don't know where the data is coming from. I personally believe it already.
There's no way to map that.
I mean, I'm hoping there is. I mean, there are lots of numbers. Yeah, I don't know which number to pick, to be honest with you. इतने numbers हैं. ये अपना advertising का number more or less comes because 4-5 reports corroborate and land at the same converging point of view. But I think commerce is a slightly larger play. It'll take its own time to play out.
So, what are you guys at Collective focusing on?
Uh, I think the
You all have multiple things that you're
yeah.
growing at
See,
the moment, right?
the for me it's very clear. I mean, the best way I define it is I want to build reliance for creators. That's my one line of it. Which is if you are a creator today, whether you're in Bhopal or Indore or Chennai, our ecosystem is going to empower you. We obviously come from the wealth of managing the most eminent and prominent personalities in the country for the last decade. Uh,
What is the market share that Collective has?
there will be organized market share will be about 70%. I mean, will be by
Of the
far
creator economy,
of of the talent
of
represent.
talent
There
representation,
will
but particularly Big Bang?
Big Bang has a few million on it, and from that 1,500, 1,600 to 2,000 crores that I spoke to you about will be roughly about 20%.
20% of the market, okay.
And this is our second year. I do intend to double down on this and expand it. I think if you look at, I think Under 25 is doing really well, which is our student platform. That's got a lot of focus because there are 600 million students in this country. And everyone is either talking, like the founder of Under 25 says it beautifully. Everyone's either talking to the university or to the parent. Nobody's talking to the student. So these guys are solving for that. They're a very, very young, bright startup. In fact, we're doing our annual summit in during this week. And at a collective level for our talent, we are creating this entire network to ensure that, the talent that we represent has the best opportunity and the best look into the India growth story. So I'm actually mapping collective not just from a creator perspective. I'm looking at collective as a new age media company that's growing along with the country's narrative, right? And that's everything is being mapped to that.
So, how did you get? I mean, of course, digressing a little bit. How did you get to this point? What was your own journey like? I know I saw a podcast where you were mentioning that you were asked to manage a band when you were much younger. Is that how you began?
Yeah. So I was managing my then heavy metal band, uh, hence the hence the shirt.
You've been into
Uh,
heavy metal all along, huh?
Yeah, I'm a metalhead. I'm currently. I still am. I still play my drums every day, every week. Not every day. Uh, my origin started by playing the drums. I started managing my own band, uh, and I was doing mechanical engineering about the same time. I realized that I couldn't fit a tire, but entertainment was where my calling was. I interned at that point in time with Mahesh Bhupati's company, Global Sport India Private Limited, and that's how my journey started. Then of course then went on to subsequently found the companies that I run today. But I think for me it was very, very clear. uh, I realized that when I gave up playing the drums, if I'm not going to be on stage, I'd rather take up the job of being the best man to put people on stage. So if I'm not in front, I'd be the best guy behind the scenes. So
Is that a
that's
special skill set that you need to have
what
to
playing.
manage people? Because that's all you. I mean,
People keep
that's
asking me.
hard.
People
That's
keep
really hard.
asking me, celebrity management can be tough, and you work with talent. I'm like,
How
uh,
many people's egos do you have to handle every day?
so the difference, Sonia, is it's not just egos. Listen, at the end of the day, I'm very, very aware of the fact that these people have entrusted their careers on you, right? So you have to take that with a pinch of the vulnerability that it's a responsibility that you have. It's how is it any different than what you have towards your employees, right? You'll always have that high maintenance employee. You'll always have that high maintenance internal resource. You'll have to manage it, right? At the end of the day, you're managing people, and that is your job as a businessman. Whether you're managing it, how difficult is it? It's not any very different than handling a irate CMO or a CEO or a founder, right? You have to just get the job done. And I
So,
think
what's
the
the biggest virtue you need to have to manage people well?
patience, patience and empathy. I think you have to be empathetic towards people. This is not a business you can do if you don't get the fundamental construct of people. You have to love. I love my clients. It's as simple as that. Uh, I I look forward to not just building. I look forward to when my team goes out there. I keep telling my team this, that you've been given a trusted job, right? When you've been put in that position, it comes with its goods of responsibilities. It also comes with its bads of dealing with consequences. So I think if you have to have empathy, a lot of it, and you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to be accountable. A lot of the times I keep telling my team, don't be the lazy guy sitting in office and taking calls. Get your butt out there, go to the market, get work in. Don't take calls. I hate it. I have an input output ratio in the company. You should know this. Where at all points in time, I will always evaluate the number of opportunities that would have come to you vis-a-vis that we created. And as long as we created more, that's my win.
Okay.
Right. So, and you have to build a story.
So you were telling me then you worked with Mahesh Bhupati's company and then you kind of stumbled upon and you started working towards Collective. At what point did you think about Big Bang and this whole creator ecosystem, or did it just happen? Was it
I
a
think it
natural
was,
progression?
I think it was 18, to be honest with you. I think I realized that at that point in time, for me to really deliver to my celebrity clients, also, I needed to increase my footprint, because otherwise you'll cap off at one point in time, right? How do you can only increase career spans if you have the infrastructure. And where was the world going? The world was going digital, right? So I decided that I have to have a very significant role to play in this world. And also what helped was there were no definitions. तो कौन क्या कर रहा है किसी को नहीं पता था. So we decided we'll be the first movers at scale. I think influencer marketing became like, how event management used to be, कि हर नुक्कड़ में एक event company होता था. When we started in 18, everybody was an influencer manager. So I said, boss, consolidate this market, right? So we raised capital. The capital was only meant for this, for really pushing this hard. And for me, it was very, very clear that the world is going digital. Our honorable prime minister talks about the importance of the digital economy, and for me, I had to have a role to play there, and not a role as a participant, a role as a dominant leader. And for that to happen, you really had to, so the company is today 400 plus people. We're in 10 offices. We're opening the Middle East in the next month to 45 days. So it's not an agency, right? It's not just an agency, right? And that's the narrative that
It's
one
a
had.
complete digital ecosystem that
It's a
you're
new
trying to
media
create.
ecosystem. And what happens to the celebrity businesses, they have access to so much. Like we started this fund, right, with Nikhil Kamath.
I
They
was going
have,
to ask you about that.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that fund. It's the Gruhas Collective Fund, right? You guys basically encourage entrepreneurs in the consumer space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Nick and I met over a coffee about a little over a year ago. And I said, man, there has to be a way where we can marry, and we both agreed to this, that there has to be a way where we can marry Silicon Valley of India with with Hollywood of India, right? Which is that what is our version of LA bridge with San Francisco? It is Bangalore and Bombay. What's the best way to do it? Capital. Where do we deploy capital? Do we put it in VC, in agri, in sustainability? We decided that our role is Collective knows how to build brands. That's our core. Nikhil knows the entire network ecosystem of venture capital, finance, strategy in that entire world. We decided that let's combine our skills together and provide the most impactful media capital available in the country with Gruhas and Collective. So what we do is we invest only in young companies. Uh, so we invest up to $1 million for anywhere between 10 to 20% in these companies.
Largely D2C?
Largely consumer.
Consumer, okay.
D2C or not secondary, but only consumer, not largely consumer, only consumer. Our first few investments are also done. We'll announce actually one of them this coming week. It's a
Nice.
fashion company that we're announcing into. This also gives access to our celebrities to come on board as limited partners, to come on board as, take a first look into our deals. In fact, we just recently announced a sexual wellness company with a client I rep personally, and that's doing really, really well. And I think that's really the ethos of that, right? So going back to your first question, why do spread across? Why build this ecosystem? Is I think I just wanted to build a super structure where everything happening in media, we have a role to play.
Okay, so going forward, what do you think could be the key focus areas for not just Big Bang, for Collective as a group? I'm trying to understand what is the next big trend that you guys are going to hop onto.
See, I feel if you look at it, Collective Artist Network represents 450 of the country's biggest names. Big Bang Social has millions of creators on the platform. Under 25 is our student platform. So if you were to look at it like a pyramid, we want to find them at a very young age, groom them, and then pop them. Right? That literally is the reverse funnel of performance marketing, right? So I think if you ask me, it's too early to say what's next, because I keep saying this. I'm growing on the back of the internet. I'm going on the back of penetration of the internet. Uh, Whatever that opportunity opens up, and that has an adjacency with media and entertainment, will be there, right? So that's why I said commerce, right? I think today with Mamath and Boat and all these, and the public and Zomato and all the India brands having a story in public markets and getting validation there, I think it'll lead to more India brands. Once you have more of those, it'll lead to more influencer brands or stroke creator brands, right? So that's where we'll play. And on the content ecosystem, we're very clear we want to build IP. So Under 25 Summit is an IP that we own. Big Bang Social's Creator Connect is an IP that we own. We have our own internal development fund for sanctioning series and small budget feature films. We just launched an IP company with Dhruv Seth, who it's a company called M19. Dhruv used to be the ex-CEO of OML. He's come on board to sort of curate OTT fiction and non-fiction and live IPs for us. So on the content side, it'll be literally deep diving on a lot of IP, and on the commerce side, which is advertising and brands, it'll be creating and curating them.
Okay, that's great. Let's talk about some of the challenges, right, in this business. Because, see, I, as a consumer, have limited amount of time, and as you said, the pie may be growing, but the number of creators, influencers are also going up substantially. So, is that creating some sort of a clutter? What is the solution to that?
I think skilling. I think that really is going to be. So actually, it's interesting because I didn't cover this. How are you going to groom the next? Like, again, I'll go back to your example because it's contextual, because we're speaking. Who's the next Sonia Shenoy, right? How are you going to groom the next set of people coming into the ecosystem? So I think skilling is going to be extremely critical, uh, and that's going to separate the two. So I think somebody just born with it. It's what IPL did, right? What did IPL do? It gave you cricketers that you never saw, right? Social media is doing that on entertainment, right? It's IPL at scale in that sense, right? But once you find that hera, how do you shine it? How do you groom it? So which is where we kind of have a strong data practice to we actually track who are the creators getting most amount of work,
Oh,
right? So if
nice.
if a creator X, say, has got 10 jobs in 3 months, that creator may have something special. So we might go and deep down. It's a program called the Alpha Creator Program, which just finds the next set of creators, right? Where we use data and analytics to actually say, okay, person X has gotten volume work. What is he or she doing that is actually enabling that? And if that's when it's like what you say. Shami Kapoor said it in Rockstar, right? When he looked at a scene and he said, "Dal do is pe." That's what we do. Then we have a panel,
And you double down on them.
we double down on them. So I think the next big thing is going to be not just on the creator side, also on our side. What is the talent at the grooming side that's able to spot talent? Remember, historically, record labels spotted the next big musician also. As much as the next big musician erupted himself or herself, it was also an executive at the record label or the A&R person. It's the same philosophy. You have to have somebody on the sell side who can actually groom your talent. So it's
So,
skilling.
so you guys speak to a lot of brands on a daily basis, right? Where do brands want to put their money in this creator economy? Is it on creators who have more number of followers, more reach, more distribution, or is it more these, micro creators who have a niche following? Just trying to understand what the potential could be over the next
It's a
one to
bit
two
of
years.
both. I think for the brands that are just entering the creator economy, they're still stuck on reach and distribution. For the brands that have, uh, that have sort of already done their time in this, they're looking for true engagement. So I think it's a bit of both. Sometimes you just want reach, sometimes, and that's why you do TV, right? You do TV to get reach. Sometimes you just want to
So
be.
the traditional brands like say an HUL or an Asian Paints, all of
No,
them still stick to TV, or are they also
no,
moving to
they're
digital
all.
in a big
That's
way?
what I told you. That's the big change. The big change used to be okay, I'm a startup. I've raised $2 million of capital. I don't have money to go to TV, so I'll go to digital. That's changed because today, even a lot of the incumbent brands, they're no longer they're no longer the brand in their category. I don't want to take names, but 10
They're
years
aging brands, yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, you being a female influencer would have said, I would love to endorse this brand for hair. Today, that particular, I'm not taking names, but there were two or three of them, right? Today, you have 20 haircare brands. You have some organic brands, some this brand, some. Who do you pick? Right? So, share of voice is also becoming critical. So, no, the answer to that is I think the older
What do you
brands,
mean when you say share of voice?
share of voice of a brand for that cohort. Today, if I have a bouquet of 15 sneakers, let's look at it. I mean, you just named a brand called Comet. Didn't exist. Today, it's a serious consideration, right? So, today, if I'm picking between buying a Nike or a Comet and I'm a young consumer, that's a new share of voice that's come in to that scene, right? And I feel
But how did Comet crack it? I'm trying to understand that.
product
Because there's
design,
so many
marketing,
other brands, right, in this space.
product and design. We just recently helped them with a collaboration with a visual designer of ours called Shantanu Hazarika. That did really well. So I think it's just about language, right? You see, for example, recently, say what happened, uh, with what even Ranveer did with Bold Care, right? It just blew up. It was just the way, the entire content was kind of the entire ad or the entire creative was packaged. So that increased share of voice from the incumbents. So I think going back to your question, I think a lot of the brands are a looking at reach, but a lot of the brands who've lived in the digital economy have now cracked it that reach is not the only thing. They also have to have engaged audiences. And I think that's where everyone will go.
Okay, this was a lot of fun, Vijay.
Thank you.
But I just want to end with a couple of thoughts from your end on what is the future. We've spoken about that, but anything else, any other areas that you think could be the next big thing in the creator economy?
No, I would just say that we need more people. I would think the next big set of creators are going to come from tier 2, tier 3 towns. I don't think they will be metro dwellers. Uh, and I just hope technology helps us enable to find those voices and actually give them a lot of scale. So, actually, if you ask me, for anyone out there who are listening to your podcast, this is the best time to enter this part of the media business. My ultimate dream is, I think this will get to a point in 4 5 years where you're going to have a kid coming out of college saying, I have an offer from Google, I have an offer from Meta, I have an offer from Collective or a person in the creator economy, and I don't know where to go because I think this will go there, and it's moving very rapidly, Sonia. I'm inside it. I know the pace at which this is blowing up, and it's ridiculous. The time is now.
It's interesting you say tier 2, tier 3, right? Because there's an India and there's a Bharat. And a lot of the brands that we talk about are for
India
India,
brands.
but Bharat is huge, right? So to crack that market,
That's everyone's brief. That's one of the main reasons I acquired under 25. Because if you look at what is the antithesis, right? China is an aging population, we're a younging population. And भारत में भी बच्चों से कौन बात कर रहा है? So one of the main reasons we acquired under 25 also was to figure, okay, through technology, how can we onboard more students, right? How can students come on board? How can kids who are growing come on board a lot faster to the world of making money and monetization? So I think Bharat, honestly, it's an expansive ocean. I don't think any brand outside of the incumbents have just cracked it yet. And I think that's where, when you said, Vijay, what are you excited about growing? That's where I said tier 2, tier 3. Because I think that guy will be able to understand his audience for a soap or a sub or a shampoo or a pair of trousers better than what you and I can do here. And I think somebody will go find that guy.
okay, Vijay, you've had an amazing career, and I hope you continue to do great work,
Thank
both
you.
with Collective, with Big Bang, and all your other ventures under 25. We think thank you so much for
Thank you
being
for
with us on
having
the
me.
podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching CNBC TV 18. For all the latest news and updates, do follow us on our social media platforms.